Alright, so what's going on, guys? My name's Chopper, and welcome everybody to today's video. Guys, today we're going to be looking at the top 10 worst iron sights in PUBG. So what I did was go through every single weapon in the entire game. I looked at their iron sights, and I made a list of the ones that I think are the absolute worst. A lot of them are just really obstructive, they're ugly looking, and they're really hard to see out of, and those are the ones that are going to be primarily on this list. Now, these are going to be my opinions, of course, and if there's a weapon that you think has even worse iron sights that did not appear on this list, make sure you do let me know down in the comment section. But if you guys enjoy the video and like to see more stuff like this, make sure to go ahead and drop a like rating. It's absolutely free and it helps me out a ton. And if you're not already a subscriber around here, make sure to go ahead and do that as well. We're getting close to 250,000 subscribers, and every single new one does help. And I want to give you guys a big thank you for the continued support on the channel. It really does mean a lot to me. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and get right into this. So the way that we're going to judge a lot of these iron sights is just simply how unusable they are, or how obstructive they cause to the weapon if you don't have a sight on it. And you might be surprised because a lot of these weapons are like the best guns in the game, but their iron sights are just completely terrible. Coming in today at our number 10 spot is the P18C, or otherwise known as the Glock. Now, if you look at these sights, they're really not all terrible. It's like standard sights for a pistol, but the problem is when you start firing it. If you look at this, the iron sights bounce everywhere, and it's impossible to see where you're aiming over the muzzle flash. And so this takes it from like being an average iron sight to a completely devastating poor iron sight. Now, I've already stated before that I don't really like this gun, and nor do I really recommend you to use it, just because you really can't win with it. If you want to just run without the suppressor, you're gonna have to deal with this big muzzle flash, and the iron sight's really not being that good to look at. But if you put the suppressor on, you get rid of the flash, but the problem is that attachment completely blocks off the iron sights. I encourage you, go into a game, put on a pistol suppressor, this weapon, and go try it out for yourself and see how hard it is to aim with this without a red dot. But I'm gonna give it the number 10 spot because I don't think the iron sights are inherently that bad to look at. They're just not great. They're very average by my estimation. Okay, guys, moving on, and coming in today at our number 9 spot is going to be the Tommy gun. Now, the thing is with these iron sights is when you're just aiming down, they're really not that bad. You have this nice centerpiece that is really pinpoint accurate, and you can use it to track targets nicely. The problem, however, kind of just like the Glock, is when you start shooting it, because the Tommy gun just really, it's got too much going on with it. I think one of the biggest issues with the Tommy gun iron sight is that like when you aim down, your actual view is so far back from the weapon that it makes everything look a lot smaller than it really is. The combination of the left and right like rail sides bouncing around, and then also that little bit of muzzle flash right in the center, makes it really hard to track enemies when you start firing. And I really believe the Tommy gun would be so much better as a weapon if you could attach at least a red dot to this thing. It would make the biggest difference in the world. I know some people actually like the Tommy gun iron sights, and if you do, fair enough. I just think that they're kind of ugly to look at, and they are a little bit hard to use. Okay, but moving on from that, and coming in today at our number 8 spot, guys, is going to be the Groza. Now, the difference between this and something like the Tommy gun is they really don't have the prettiest iron sights, but the really big key thing here is that the Groza has like no muzzle flash when you're actually aiming down the sights. And oftentimes, when you got a Groza anyways, it's unlikely you're going to find this, and by that point in the game, you don't have any kind of sight at all, even if it's just like a regular scope. So while the chances are that you're going to have to use these iron sights, which are really not that pretty on the Groza, are relatively low, it doesn't take away from the fact that they're just still not great. But in my opinion, also, muzzle flash makes a huge difference in determining whether iron sights are usable or not. And thankfully, if you are in the position that you have to use the irons, then odds are it's not too hard to see out of them anyways while you're firing. But yeah, they definitely don't look that cool, and they're not ideal, that's for sure. But moving on, guys, and coming in today at our number 7 spot is going to be the glorious AKM. Now, feast your eyes, ladies and gentlemen, check these out. These are probably one of the ugliest regular irons that I've ever seen in my entire life. And the weird thing about this gun is what I said earlier is like normally muzzle flash makes it worse, but what's weird about the AKM is that with the irons, the longer you fire, the easier the iron sights get to use. It's really strange, but like the centerpiece bounces up a little bit more as you keep spraying, and it's like easier to see for some reason. So in my opinion, in reality, it does have one of the ugliest and I would say objectively worst iron sights in the entire game, but it's actually okay when you're spraying with it, and if you're gunfighting, it's not impossible to see. And if you ask me, man, I think that's a miracle. Now, I'm not saying that you should use the iron sights on the AKM anyways. You should always run it with like a red dot, or a hollow, something like that. But if you absolutely have to use these irons, then it's really not the worst thing in the world. They're just not that good to look at, in my opinion. Okay, but now coming in at the number 6 spot, this might be a little bit of a hot take. You guys can let me know what you think about it, but I'm gonna give this to the M16. Now, I think the centerpiece of the M16, like right down the middle, those are probably the prettiest iron sights you could ask for in the game. Like, Like, that's exactly what you want. However, the problem is the stuff that's surrounding it and on the sides, all of that, like, other railing going on is pretty obstructive. And then when you combine that with trying to burst fire the iron sights, it's an absolute disaster. The horizontal recoil on this gun is pretty dramatic, so that means, like, all of that other side railing and everything it's got going on that isn't the centerpiece really are just there to get in the way. And I think, honestly, this gun in burst fire is, like, one of the hardest weapons to track with if you're using irons. Like, it's ridiculous, and these are tough to use, I won't lie. So the M16, while it has nice potential for it if it was only the centerpiece, or if it cleaned up a little bit more around the edges, I think it would be significantly better. But as it is right now, and especially if you're trying to burst fire, the M16 is just, honestly, it's awful, lads, so don't use it. Now, coming in at our number 5 spot, this one, guys, this one's gonna break my heart to talk about, because it's, you know, it's like my favorite gun in the game, but I gotta put my personal bias aside. This is the Beryl M762. Now, I love the weapon. You guys know me. I think this is probably my favorite gun in the game right now, but this doesn't take away from the fact that the iron sights are pretty trash. It's kind of like, how do I describe it? It's like the AKM, but somehow worse. Like, when you're spraying, really, it isn't terrible, but just aiming down the sights, it's something about, like, the side rail that I just don't like. I think the view of the weapon is pretty bad, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Also due to the fact that this just has a ridiculous recoil as is, so that might kind of skew your perception about how bad the iron sights are really. Thank God scopes and sights are not hard to find in this game, or else we might actually be stuck having to use these on the Beryl, and it's such a shame. It feels so weird for me to shame the Beryl this much, but I'm really just trying to be honest here, and I'm trying to put everything that I like about the weapon aside to just look at the iron sights objectively, and they're really just not that good. Okay, but getting away from that, and coming in today at our number 4 spot is going to be the sawed-off shotgun. And lads, what can I even say about this gun that hasn't already been said? I think the point of this weapon is it's supposed to be an actual garbage can. I've already said this is the worst gun in the game, like, by fact, and my mind will not be changed on that. It isn't even meant to shoot real bullets, and combined with the fact that the iron sights don't even have, like, a little centerpiece in the middle to show you where your aim might go, I think is pretty tragic. Like, even the regular double barrel has a little, like, metal dot right on the centerpiece of the front, which does help a little bit, to be honest, but the sawed-off has none of that going for it, and the iron sights are just completely non-existent. So this weapon is trash by every sense of the word, and the iron sights just continue to add to that rating. And for people who defend the sawed-off and be like, okay, well, it's only a pistol, that's not really helping your case, as imagine having a shotgun that is so weak that you have to have it in a pistol slot. So I don't know, I think that's saying a lot about the weapon. The iron sights are pretty ugly, and it has to come in on this list. All right, getting into our top 3 here, some of these are going to be pretty surprising, I think, and coming in at the number 3 spot is the M24 sniper rifle. Now, this is obviously one of the best guns in the game. Like, the sniper is an absolute monster, but the problem is you need a scope, because otherwise you only have this one flat rail, but at the end of, like, the barrel, you do have this little centerpiece that can help guide your aim a little bit. Now, thankfully, the times that you're probably going to end up with an M24 but no scopes or even sights to use it on is probably pretty few and far between. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you're stuck in the situation where you got to use the irons against somebody, you might just be better off no scoping and using your crosshairs. Like, I'm not even kidding about that. If you use the aim mechanic, which really isn't quite ADSing, it just kind of like tightens up your hip fire spread, that might be probably better than just trying to use the flat rail that the M24 has. Like, it's honestly a disaster. But good thing scopes and sights are a thing, am I right? But yeah, all in all, the M24 irons are pretty terrible. Now, coming in today at the number 2 spot is one that really surprised me, and I think is going to surprise you guys as well. So taking the number 2 spot today, easily one of my favorite guns in the game, the MK or the Mark 14. Now this, I honestly forgot what the iron sights looked like because I hadn't used them in so long. The problem is that these irons, when you fire in full automatic mode, literally go away. Like, you physically cannot use them, even if you're single tapping to some degree. If you're shooting fast enough, like the way that these bounce and the obstruction that it provides, like amongst the entire rail, is just it's impossible to use. Now, thankfully, I don't think I've ever been in a game where I somehow ended up with a Mark 14 but nothing to use it with, because these iron sights are just absolutely horrendous. While getting the gameplay for this video, I don't think I've ever fired this weapon in full auto without some kind of sight, and I gotta say, like, wow, it's really bad. So yeah, easily this is honestly one of the worst iron sights in the entire game, but fortunately apparently, like I said, scopes and everything like that, or at least a red dot, are really easy to find, and the red dot or the holo makes all the difference with this weapon and makes it usable if you want to shoot it in full auto, which is what you'd like to see. But anyways, there is one more weapon on this list that I think has the worst iron sights in the entire game possible, and I think you might know what's coming up. So ladies and gentlemen, taking the honorary #1 spot, the worst iron sights in the game of PUBG has to go to the best gun in the game, arguably, the AWM. Now, I don't know how this is somehow worse than the M24's like flat rail iron sights. The thing about the M24 is it's got that little centerpiece on the end of the barrel, so and you'd be surprised about how much of a difference that makes. The AWM, however, has none of that, and it's literally flat. There's no sight to be found on this entire weapon. It actually could not be more flat. And so for some reason, if you're trying to hit shots without using anything on this AWM, good luck. You're not going to hit a single thing. Like it's wild how bad these actually are. Even if it had that little centerpiece that the M24 has, I think it would make a massive difference in this weapon if you had to use it with nothing. But you're going to want at least a red dot or arguably some better scopes for this weapon. That's what it's designed for. Obviously, that's what it's made for. It's not supposed to have great iron sights, but it is pretty astounding about how bad they actually are. But yeah, anyways, guys, that is going to be the video for today. The top 10 worst iron sights, in my opinion, in PUBG. And if there's any gun that you think has really bad iron sights that I did not include in this video, make sure you let me know down below in the comment section, as I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video regardless. If you did, please make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe if you are brand new, of course, and make sure you go check out my second channel, which is linked inside the description. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers over there, and I'll be streaming over there as well. So make sure you go check it out before you go. Links in the description again, and I'll see you all on the next stream or the next video. Take it easy, guys, and peace out.